the theme song to Jurassic Park. It's a gift from my friend Craig Bateman. Hey kids, it's Jurassic James, and as Jurassic James explains, we're looking at Pentaceratops. Now, same rules apply. Older models, newer models here. I only have 4. They're kind of a rare specimen, which is funny because, or interesting, because in 1921, what we now know as Pentaceratops was first discovered, basically, or first uncovered by scientists. So my first experience with this animal is this guy here. This is essentially the Dinosaur Valley model. Then we have the Schley, Papo, and Jurassic World model. Now, first of all, with Pentaceratops, I want to go over what it is. It's a ceratopsian, a horned dinosaur. So the word ceratopsia literally means horned face for obvious reasons. But within ceratopsia, the 2 major later branches are centrosaurs and chasmosaurs. So chasmosaurs itself is this guy here. This is a Jurassic, I think, Lost World chasmosaurs. They're known for having these long frills and the horns over their brow like this. So Pentaceratops is really, these aren't to scale, but they're really like close together. Whereas the other branches are called the centrosaurs. So the very now famous Pentaceratops, which is like a Texas Longhorn, and this is actually labeled in the Jurassic World line as a Pentaceratops, but it's actually a Pentaceratops technically. These guys are actually closer to the Centrosaurus group. This is a Chasmosaurus group. I did a whole video on this, on ceratopsian evolution anyway. But, fun fact, Triceratops is actually a member of the Chasmosaur group. It's just one of the last members, and it's, even though it has a rounder frill that matches more with Centrosaurus, it's still a Chasmosaur, basically. Again, the detailed breakdown of ceratopsian evolution here, kids. So, the first one I bought was this one from Dinosaur Valley, and it was essentially one of those, back in Toys R Us, basically. And one thing to point out with this, looking at it, the name Pentaceratops means penta as in 5, whereas Triceratops means 3. Penta has 5, so we have the 2 brow horns, the nose horn, and these 2 things here, they're technically not horns, but they stick out, so then they're more prominent on Pentaceratops than Triceratops and other ceratopsians, so they're called, of course, horns, so it's 5 of them, basically. One thing to point out, the giant frill, is that this area here under my finger and that area there, and then in the actual skull, is not solid. Like there's a frame of bone, but there's actually holes right here in the skeleton. Where the Triceratops, the unusual ceratopsian, has a solid frill the whole way across. That makes up the skull lighter for the animal. Now, one thing to point out here is it does have 4 toes, which is pretty good, and they're in varied size. The forelimbs, now there are 5 digits here, and when you look at a ceratopsian, usually on their limb, they get smaller. So you have like the two or three bigger ones here and smaller ones there. Pentaceratops is known mainly from skull material. Not only, but mainly for that. So, and we found that they were first discovered in New Mexico, and the majority of what we know about them kind of came from that region, but now we're finding them further and further north. Oh, here's why that's important. So it turns out about 75 million years ago, in the late Cretaceous period, in the Campanian age, you have an ocean that's cutting North America in half. So what we have like California and like Florida and New York. So in the middle where Texas, Kansas, those areas, those would be underwater basically. So and there's actually technically 2 continents. The one on the east side was called Appalachia, which sounds familiar. On the west side is called Laramidia, which also sounds familiar for geologists who study the Rocky Mountains. So the idea here is that Pentaceratops was on the western side, but on the coast, looking into like that area. So imagine today you go to New Mexico or Colorado or Wyoming, and you see these like the Badlands, these plains, these mountains, and like things like that. Back then, it was like Louisiana. It was a swamp, basically. Not super swampy, but enough, not like today. So that's where Pentaceratops lived. Now, one thing to point out, this one that I find most interesting are the legs, the limbs. There's 3 things that I would critique on this. First and foremost, the torso is a very generic tube shape. And what I'm saying is, yes, many ceratopsians have the same body plan. It's like if you see a skeleton, the body of a Pseudoceratops or a Pachyrhinoceros, or they have a very similar look. What made Pentaceratops unique, and we'll see in other figures, is they have very high neural spines. Now, if you touch the back of your backbone, you feel little bumps. Those are technically what we would call in dinosaurs neural spines, but they're taller. So they're more like a bison, these large on their neck and back, upper shoulder back. So a lot of muscle attachments to probably hold and move the head. So this guy doesn't have any of those. So it's like a flat, straight line. The tail, I always complain the tails are too small on these figures. For ceratopsians, I mean, this one still seems too small actually, but for ceratopsians, their tails are generally smaller compared to the dinosaurs. The balance was really in the body itself. But again, the legs are what I'm concerned about, because yes, there are, the femur, the tibia, fibula, metatarsals like that. That's not too terrible, but the forelimbs are really concerning, because your humerus, your ulnar radius, this area here is essentially like the wrist. And I don't recall, I'm thinking of the skeletons in my head, like, no, they don't have these elongated like wrists right here to the toes. So that's kind of a unique, weird thing. But the main thing to point out too, and that this one has it, but others don't, is that the frill have these little bumps and horns right here. Now there are two horns seen tucking in, but they're not like this. This is like it's arching like that. Those two inner horns really should lay on the frill itself. So that's something that's kind of, I would say, the number one incorrect thing. But again, it was my first Pentaceratops, so I'm super excited about it no matter what. I went back to Toys R Us before they went away and saw this one from Schley. And this is my first more scientific model. Now, one thing to point out, again, the color we don't know. It has the 4 toes, 5 forelimbs. They're varying in size. Again, it's kind of doing a thing where, kind of like us, where the middle digits are the longest, and generally it should be, the longer one should be on the inside. So like on these digits and not the ones on the outside. The frill is more correct in that it has the little 2 horns there going down and in there. But overall, pretty cool model. Hits all the points. I don't see anything like dramatically wrong with this thing. But I do love this hump right here in the back. Not a hump, but the fact there's tall neural spines, attaching muscles, so it's holding the head, able to move it around basically. So really, really good model in this sense. The other one I have here is this one. Funny, I go to Dinosaur Park in Bastrop and I do field trips there, and I always go, and then I end every trip going into the gift shop and just buying a lot of stuff. And I remember my wife's like, you can't keep spending all your profits in the gift shop, but I love their toys so much. So I was picking out stuff, and this one was the new, it just came out, the Papo Pentaceratops, Papo, P-A-P-O, the company. And I remember it wasn't with the other toys, so when I went to the counter to pay, there were like 3 of these there. And part of me was like, they put that, they know who I am. They put that there just to trick me. So I was like, oh, I want that too. So this one, I like the fact that there's I'm not sure if it's copyright infringement. They both have the same stance. That's really interesting. That they both are doing like the what's up, like a rapper. I don't know. I'm being really cool, but I'm not very cool. But the idea here is that this one I like because the forelimbs they look more realistic in that you can see there's those bigger fingers, and then on the side there's a smaller one. Same thing there. So again, I'm not sure how much hand or forelimb material they have, but on this guy, but that seems to track more than what I've seen before. The horns right there on top are really great. The frill stand up. So again, the beauty and brilliance of this kind of structure is that, like a deer's antlers, this large femur bone isn't that heavy, or I mean it's heavy, but it's not that large and encompassing. So the animal has this like larger thing where if you look at a Ceratopsian without the frill, I mean the horns are still spectacular. This one is particularly more aggressive, design. But the idea is you're looking at an animal and it's not as terrifying, but you have this, and that really gives you this sense of like, this is a big thing, and it's, it's looking at me. So I think this is, in my opinion, the most accurate one of all. And I'll do a link. There's no sponsorship. I just like Dinosaur Park so much. I'll do a link where you can get one like this. The skin texture, I'm not aware of any. I haven't seen any papers with Pentaceratops skin impressions, but we do have Triceratops skin impressions, and those guys have like a tile. Because we think of that scales, you think of like a snake where it's overlapping, like roof tile. For dinosaurs, it seems to be more like floor tile, where they're side by side. And Triceratops has little rectangles on the belly, small circles here, and hexagons on the back. They're pretty large. We don't know their skin pattern, but it will probably be something very tile-like in that sense. All very decent models, but again, they're all great. I just think they're great. But what prompted this video was I went into a Target and I saw this. So Jurassic World has their own Pentaceratops figure. It does the head movement, which is really, really cool. And then you turn, you can't do it as well, mine, but you push the other hip button. There's 2 buttons here that are blended into the animal, and you push it and like that. I don't know. I know that for ceratopsians, the horned dinosaurs, or their head, neck, and neck, it's like a ball and socket. So they do roll their heads, apparently. I'm not sure about how much torso action you're getting there. I don't know. I haven't read any papers that aren't even on that idea. But again, you have all of them have the two brow horns, the nose horn, the two side horns here, and then of course the horns in front point down. The feet are all, I mean, they're very gnarly looking, you know, large. Like they don't have claws like the predators, but they do have like, you know, claws. So in many ceratopsians I've seen the what we consider a claw, what you consider a claw, it's more flat, like hoof-like in some sense. But anyway, so that's Pentaceratops. Oh yeah, the other thing. So this guy, as they're doing many of them, they're kind of going back to the old Jurassic Park Lost World version in the in the 90s, and they're doing. I'm sure I'm doing that wrong, but they're doing the. How does this go? Let's see. Nope, we're gonna go with the way we know will work, and so it comes with this little armor here, and I probably put it on wrong. I'm pretty sure I did, but you throw it off and it breaks kind of like that, you know. So super exciting for kids who like to have the. I mean, was it behind the head? I don't know. Actually, now I'm really curious. Anyway, not the focus right now. I'm not doing a full toy review. It's a Pentaceratops review. So again, what I like about this guy, you see it's a bigger model. So this rostrum, this beak thing here, we see it in ceratopsians. I like that the nostrils are right on the tip. Dr. Larry Whitmer, in Whitmer Labs has research on soft tissue studies and dinosaurs. They scan and find these things. And the NARS, our nasal hole for us, that's right there for them. But just because the hole's there doesn't mean the nostril's there. Whitmer's papers were showing that no, the nostrils will be at the very front of the animal's nose. So it's kind of like a dog sniffing like this. You want to smell from the front. If anything, Whitmer would probably say that the hole will be a little even further to the front than this. But again, nice little beak. The skin texture, even though we don't know it, it wouldn't be terrible to think it's this texture. I'm gonna put it really close to the camera. To see that texture there, we really wouldn't be like, oh, that's not possible, you know. So really good model. I like them a lot. I mean, they're all. But what's fun about a big picture, this animal is that we didn't see the changes over the century. Like the toys came relatively late, you know. So it's not like we're Triceratops or T-Rex particularly. We see a lot of changes of the model designs. This has kind of come out, even though it was found in the 1920s, it kind of just came out late, and now it's here, and they just make kind of the same model. So not a lot of diversity and change in this, which is kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. But so as far as environments go, I'm going to use my favorite guy here as the example. So in New Mexico, we find Pentaceratops, and they're usually living with our old friend Perasaurolophus. Now I heard it pronounced Perasaurolophus. I always say Perasaurolophus. I'm from Texas. I mean, I say it that way. But these guys are found together, and there's a Tyrannosaur, and I always have trouble saying its name. It's Bistovius. Sorry, Bistahievesor. Bistaviver. It's a Tyrannosaur. There's only one model of it, so here it is, you know. And so it's found in that environment. So we have like these guys for sure live together there. It is believed that Alamosaurus, a late Cretaceous North American sauropod, a titanosaur, which is kind of rare, lives with them as well. So that's the New Mexico environment right there. That's the Kirkland Formation, if I remember correctly. If you go further north, you'll see other species. Oh yeah, and Daspletosaurus. Sorry, Daspletosaurus is also there too. So we have these two Tyrannosaurs and other duckbills. As you go north on this coastline, where today, think about the Great Plains of North America, where Kansas, Nebraska, Montana, those areas are. That is where the ocean went up through North America. So to the west of that, or for you, for the west of that, that would have been the coastline these guys are living on. So in New Mexico is at the southern part of the coast. You're going up towards, we have like in Colorado and all that, and to like Canada, to Dinosaur Park. There's Dinosaur Park, the place where they have the jarring models here in Texas, and there's Dinosaur Park, the formation like in Canada. And there they have Cryptosaurus, and we have another Chaetosaurine, Pentaceratops. We have, of course, Styracosaurus, Alberta's finest. We have Gorgosaurus too, which is a cousin of Albertosaurus. Now, those are the actual genre there are toys that are found in the northern area with these guys. There are this is a troodon, the genus, but there are troodonts like this. This is a Deinonychus from rotation period. Gravity still works. But there are raptors, dromaeosaurs, two or three dromaeosaurs in this environment too. You have Edmontonia, the Nodosaur. Now, this is the Campanian, so it's 35 million years ago. Pachycephalosaurus is Maastrichtian, it's 65 million years ago. So it's like this one called Stegosaurus, not Stegosaurus, Stegosaurus, but it's like this, but it's smaller. And finally, who fell? Oh, right, the Ornithomimid. So we find those there too. So this is the environment that the Pentaceratops would have been in. And the big deal, and I mentioned it again in my Ceratopsian video, the big deal is you're seeing this environment with multiple ceratopsians, kind of like how you have different kind of antelope and impala in Africa. So they're all like the same kind of body plan. They have different like horn structures and ranges technically. Same thing's happening here. So Pentaceratops is a cool animal. I told you a story really shortly. I'm trying to keep the videos kind of short. But let me know about what you think. If you like to see more, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. All those things people YouTube professionally do those things for me, please. Thank you. That being said, I will now play myself out. This is so cool. Okay. Thank you very much. See you guys later. Bye.